lights up? Probably not. But anyway, welcome to episode 1 of Main Phase. Tonight, the topics will be meta deck breakdowns, what should you side deck, tournaments around the world covering nationals, regionals, things like that. We have Tier 2, it's the name of the segment, which will go over some fun decks that are budget and still competitive, and very fun to play. And then the final segment will be called Future Fortunes, which will just talk about upcoming cards and if we think they're good and impact the meta or not. With me tonight, I have my co-host, Dimitri. Why don't you introduce yourself?
What's up, guys? I'm Dimitri. I hail from the Philadelphia area. I mostly play at A Bluebell. We've got people like Frazier, Smith, Silverman, a lot of people that do consistently well tournaments play there. I've been playing competitively for, I would say, about 9 years now. I have about six regional tops. I got my first one when I was 13. I didn't start traveling until I was around 17. No premier event tops yet, but I've come pretty close. And I enjoy the game. I like playing competitively. One day, hopefully, within the year, I'll be able to get my first premier event top. But uh, there's always time for that. There's time to improve. The big thing with that is traveling is an issue as well. Some people can't get everywhere. Consistency is key. The more you get to, the more opportunities you have. So, but yeah, we decided to start this stream because we wanted to talk about what's going on around the metagame, provide you guys with some good content. A lot of people don't take the time out to do this either because they don't have the time or they just don't want to put forth the effort. And to be able to provide a stream that has a lot of insight from two players and just breaking down and analyzing the metagame is, I think it's pretty cool, and I'm looking very forward to doing it.
Alright, and with that, we're going to go into our first segment, Meta Deck Breakdown. We're going to talk about what's being played, how is it being played, how is it affecting or not the matchups of the decks, what it's good against, what it's bad against, and how do you stop the decks. Well, for the first meta deck, we're going to talk about, as you see on screen, Geargia. Geargia are arguably the best deck right now in the meta. Consistent,
Sure.
safe, very easy to +1, just easy to play. I think the mirror matches are basically whoever goes first and sets a bunch of back row. So uninteresting deck, I believe, in my opinion. How
The
about your?
thing about
Yep.
Geargia too is it's so easy to play, but then you take it to the high level of competitive play, and it's being piloted by two good players, and it's still very good. You can probably misplay with Geargia a few times in the game and still be in it, just because of how strong they
Yeah,
are.
they're very
Like
forgiving.
Geargia Gear is just probably one of the most retarded theme trap cards in a very long time. It's a rescue rabbit for Gear X essentially, and you can pretty much just
Yeah,
throw it into any back row, and if the Gear X goes
and
off, then you just
yeah,
+1.
you
If it
can only
doesn't, well,
activate one per turn. But you can set it. You can say you go first, set it, use it on their turn. Next turn you flip another, and you have a full board. It's
yep,
extremely powerful, and
it's
I
a
don't know
very
what
very
Konami was
strong
thinking with that card. But
it puts them so over the top. Like Gear Armor is good on its own. It just gives the deck it's the deck's heart and soul. But then you just add something like Gear, and it just puts them way over the top. It's +1 machines pretty much.
yeah, exactly what it is. Now, Geargia has two variants that have been doing well. It's either Pure Geargia, which runs about 15, 16 monsters, or Geargia Hand, which runs anywhere from 16 to 18 monsters. And it cuts down on some of the other cards to fit in the hands, because the hands are just a whole another story themselves, extremely broken. What variant do you like to run better?
Um, I'm playing pure, in my testing and stuff, messing around online. And then I saw the hand deck when Furman got second at ARGBC, and I like the concept, especially for that tournament because in the ARGs it goes back to what Konami or UDE used to do, where once you make the top cut, everybody gets a copy of the deck lists, and that's very helpful. And you would think, okay, well, if they can see my deck list, then they know I'm playing hands, so they're going to be, a little bit wary. But the problem with Gears is, like, that set could either be an armor or it could be a hand. So it really makes them think of what their play is going to be. Like, do I just let them keep the armor there? Do I try and aggro over it so I can, stop them from making a rank 4 easier? But if you read it wrong and you run into a hand, then you can be down in the game, and then they can freely just set the armor. And it really plays a lot of mind games with the opponent. And if they don't, even if they just let the hand sit there, you can use it and like leverage in the pluses by attacking, clearing some back row so you can safely drop the Gear X's. It's a very good variant. Like, I would honestly prefer it over pure Geargia at this point.
Yeah, basically any deck right now, if it has a hand variant, you run the hands. They're just too versatile, and it's too essential in gaining board control and hand control. Very easy.
They're probably the best floaters that have come out in recent memory.
Yeah.
Like, I was talking about it with somebody, like, when they first came out, I'm like, these cards do better than Tengu was in Tengu's prime. And it actually has come to that. Like, almost any deck that can play them, mains them, or sides them at the very least. So, I mean, like, you have the potential to go, like, +4 off of just having one copy. It's pretty ridiculous.
Alright.
And they're ranked 4, they're level 4, too, so, like, the best thing with the hands, too, is even if you can only resolve one of them, you can just, like Fire Hand or Ice Hand clear back row and then use it as rank 4 fodder, because you didn't lose anything out of it. It was a free monster. And if you're playing, when we're talking about Hat, you'll see that this is pretty easy for them to just kind of get free rank 4s, because Mermail will replace itself, and the hands, they kind of, obviously, they replace themselves and plus, so it's that strategy is very good. When we talk about that, I'll have more to say on that concept.
Alright, let's talk about what do you play against Geargia? What decks beat the deck? I would say.
It's hard to say.
Yeah,
because it has a very good matchup across the board.
I'd say it has like an 80% chance of beating pretty much any deck unless they open terribly. It's just they can just do too much.
Infernity another thing for that though, because they're just they don't play.
Infernities are rising, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. So side deck against Geargia, we have Noblemans try and hit their gears, and that pretty much wins you a game right there. You can use DNA surgery so they can't make Geargia X. Besides that, Maxis, draw some more cards, try and match their pluses if they accept the Maxi challenge. What else?
That's the thing, though. They don't actually have to accept the Maxi challenge. They play so many back row, and armor just kind of replaces cards that you would draw off of C, that they can easily just go into a Gear X, give you the draw, search, and then just end the turn. So it's really hard to try and find, like, a really good card that kind of just puts you in a decent situation against Geargia. Like, there isn't really one single card that does everything. Like, Nobleman is okay, but then, they have Gear. It's not uncommon to draw multiple armor. Hand variants can kind of just, like, bait out the knocks. It's really hard to find, like, a very solid card that just kind of just stops them. There are no floodgate cards that do it. DNA surgery might be, like, one of those cards. That's probably the best one. And it's ironic because a lot of the decks, aside from Hat right now, lose to floodgate cards. So it's kind of fun that Geargia loses to one as well.
Okay. One interesting side deck card I saw that was being run in the Dutch Nationals was King Tiger Wanghu, and that just absolutely.
Yeah, I never even seen any coverage from that. Like, you sent me a couple of deck lists, but I wasn't really sure what was being played. But you said King Tiger was being
King Tiger Wanghu was being sided against Geargia, and it eats so much. Whatever they try to do, their Geargia Accelerator, it eats. That eats all the Georgianos.
MK2, all that, yeah.
And they can't get over with any of their main deck monsters unless they're running the.
If they flip armor, it's only when they're normal or special.
Yes,
right?
it's only normal or special. So they can just keep bouncing, flipping armor and getting his effect until they have a way to get around the King Tiger. But
which is a problem, because if they summon Accelerator, it automatically gets destroyed. And it's not like you can. If you can't fetch another, so it's kind of like they're pretty stymied, I would say. I think that's a pretty interesting tech.
Yeah, it works when it does work. It does.
Yeah. Mhm. I would say
All
that's
right,
pretty good. That's
let's
very
move
interesting.
on to the next meta deck, which is funny to call it a meta deck because it's not really a meta, or
Yeah,
it
it's
started out as
integral.
anti-meta. So we're
Yeah.
talking about Hands Artifact Traptrix, better known as Hat, uh, which is really funny because they don't have a general theme. They just kind of pop cards, generate pluses, and try and shut you down before you can do anything. Artifact Sanctum, extremely powerful card. Use it at an opponent's end phase or whenever they try and make a move. Summon your Morale Thack, pop their card, shut down their play. It's very reactive.
Yes. It's all geared towards stopping them from making a play and just kind of grinding out the game for as long as you can.
Hmm.
Sanctum, like, it's pretty much one of the main reasons why you don't see Mystical Space Typhoon main decked anymore. Because if you hit an Ignition or if you hit a Sanctum, you're allowing them to go +2 essentially. Because what happens is if you MST Sanctum and they chain it, they'll summon the Moltriarch, they'll destroy a card with Moltriarch, and then they'll also be able to destroy a card with Sanctum since it's technically being destroyed by
Yes.
MST.
So, just very easy ways to plus and recycle themselves. The hands just go through themselves, pop cards, net you more pluses. Mermail gets a bottomless, Traptrix Nightmare, Dionera, or whatever the Dione summons the Mermillo, pop card, rank 4. Just very strong plays in general, and the only deck that I can say has an inherent good matchup against it is Geargia, because they're the best deck right now.
Yeah,
Um,
for sure. Because like they can stop like an armor, but they still get a search, but it kind of just stymies them from making the rank 4 play. So they'll have to
yeah,
either set another armor or set a hand to try and get back into the game. I think that's another reason why I like the hand variant of Geargia more because it actually does a lot to combat the hat matchup.
hmm Um, so, out of all the tournaments I've been seeing, Hat has consecutively been placing lower and lower, and their number of decks have been kind of dwindling in the tops, which is interesting because I think just people are learning how to play against the deck more and not overextending as much, knowing that they could sanctum you, or and then people haven't been running the MSTs anymore, which was another big part of the deck's success, I think.
Right. And you'll notice in trap lineups of most decks, Wiretap is
Yes,
becoming
Wiretap is in the
excessively
game.
good. Yes. It stops their Sanctum. It shuffles it back into the deck. It pretty much is better than MST at this point in the game. It does everything MST can do except maybe chainable destruction, which is not very good right now, and it just helps. It helps a lot against the hack deck, and I think that's probably why it's been dwindling in tops because a lot of people are just ready for it. It's not a very good deck. It doesn't have an option to go like to make aggressive plays. Like if the opponent is already up, if they have a board established, like Geargia can pretty much just crank out a couple of rank 4s like Gearx and just set traps, and the hat player is already playing down. On top of that, the deck can actually brick somewhat too.
Yeah, you
Drawing
can.
Leona without a Mermilio is absolutely terrible, and
It,
you're
it
playing a local
essentially
Mermilio.
becomes like a Karibo at that
Yeah,
point.
yeah, Neo the Magic Swordsman, 1700 attack vanilla. They can draw pretty horrendously
Yeah,
sometimes, and
you don't want to draw your Morale Thax just because
no.
people aren't running the MSTs anymore or random back row destruction. I mean, it's nice that they hit it, but odds are, if you're playing against a competent player, they will not randomly,
Spacer
yeah,
traps, yeah.
space or pop stuff.
I mean,
So,
they play the ignition to try and mitigate the fact that they draw them, but it's like
yeah.
that's not the most optimal
Usually
call.
people only play 3 of the Morale Thack and like 1 of the red guy. That's the most
That
common. Maybe
rock
1
attack or
scythe.
something. Yeah,
Yeah.
I've seen them drop to just no red guy recently.
Yeah, because I don't think, like, they're just starting to figure out that maybe these guys aren't that great.
Hmm.
But, alright, we can move on to our next stick now. Dragon Rulers. Everyone hates them. Everyone hates them. They just don't die. They're around.
They really don't. I
They're
mean,
they're
even
one
if
of
they're
the
not the
most,
best deck right now,
yeah.
they're still a tier 2
They
relevant
can
deck
they can just
against.
kill you for no reason.
Yeah.
Just swarm the board and kill you. Uh, the variant they have quite a few variants, which is the Blue Eyes variant, or the Mythic Ruler variants, or the Lightsworn variant, which uh, has becoming popular recently too.
Very popular.
Uh,
Yes.
so what would you say is the strongest variant?
It's hard to say because they all have things that they do
Yeah,
differently
they
than
all
the
play
other
very
one.
differently.
Yes. The mythic the mythic variant tries to kind of stabilize the field and have a good board position. They don't necessarily kill you right away. They want something like Felgrand, kind of protect
Yeah,
him.
Felgrand, Star
Draco
Eater,
Sack,
things like that.
yeah, things like that. Try and grind through cards and then kind of make a push with a lot of damage next turn. The Lightsworn variant is probably the most aggressive. I would say
It's
it's
explosive.
it's akin to Chaos Dragons, how Chaos Dragons used to be when they were popular. Wyvern for Judgment Dragon is just really
It
ridiculous.
adds more consistency to the Lightsworn deck. I actually have one of the decks in it topped San Antonio regional first place, so we'll go over that later. But it just gives consistency to the Lightsworn decks. You get a JD to your hand faster, and that's pretty much it. It's just a good card. Um,
Yeah, like you can win games with like double JD and two Dragon Rulers out of nowhere. It's pretty insane.
yeah, it's pretty good.
And then when the new support comes out, they have pretty much a rank 7 that just clears any card for them, and then they can just kind of kill you that way. Like Michael is going to be very prominent when the support comes out. Hopefully, well, I don't know if hopefully is the right word. Maybe we don't want to see any more Dragon Rulers, but
Yeah, we do not.
if the list doesn't ban all of them, then it'll be very relevant. And I don't know if it'll be the best deck, but it'll definitely be a lot better, and you'll have to account for it in main and side because Michael, that's one of the cards they definitely needed. I would say.
Yeah.
Because there were so many times where, like, if you're gonna make a level 4 tuner, you don't want Lumina and that tuner to just turn into a black.
Yeah, basically it was like you had a choice of Black Rose or Arcanite Magician.
Yeah.
So Arcanite was fine, like back in the day, but you need something else now.
Yeah. Michael is the perfect card for sure.
It's very good. Let's talk about the matchups for the Dragon Rollers. Again, it can just kill you whenever, so it has good, not necessarily good matchups, but if you're not prepared for the Dragon Rollers, they'll just swarm the board and kill you in the game one.
Especially the Lightsworn variant, they can push through back row pretty easily.
Yeah.
It depends on like how stacked they are. Like if you're playing against like Madolche or Geargia and they just have everything down there, you're probably gonna get grinded down. But if you can push through a couple of them, like make wave plays, force them to respond to some of your like more threatening plays, like a Dragon Ruler summon or a Synchro, and then the turn after kind of just drop the JD and try and finish the job, then you're looking like you're in a pretty good spot. So it doesn't have any bad matchups per se, but it doesn't have any good ones either. It's kind of just like, how well do you draw?
The side deck does very well against this. DD Crow wrecks the deck pretty hard, just banishing the rulers before they even get their shenanigans started.
DD Crow is a very interesting side card.
Yeah, Imperial Iron Wall.
It's not very optimal, but it hits a few decks well enough to stymie them to where it becomes very good in those matchups. And that's definitely one of them.
Yes. Alright, the next meta deck breakdown, Mermail. They kind of disappeared for a while, but now they're coming back. I feel like even with Gund gone, there's...
That one, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, basically gone. It's still strong, because they were pretty much the most consistent deck released in a while.
Yep.
Just because they can suck them
through. They had everything. They did everything. They could make their hand. They could threaten game on turn 2. Like they were not staying down either. And I think even with Gundam 1, like they've had moderate success at regionals and at other premier events.
Yeah, the Dutch Nationals. There's quite a few Mermail decks. I think it was like 4 or 5. And then that's like the only deck in the game where you run more cards to make it more consistent, so you don't draw into your Undines and Gen X like in the hands together. It's it's interesting.
It is because it was kind of like how with Agents where sometimes people would play like 43 cards, which I didn't really agree with, but I could see the logic where you didn't want to draw shine balls. It's the same concept, and then what's really good for them and it kind of just helps them actually keep up is the fact that Undyne gets you to your title immediately.
Yes.
And that's going to help you combo with Abyss Spear. It's going to help you just put damage on the field. It's going to help you set up your rank 7 plays. And just behind, the one thing that they do have is that that strong turn 1 where they can go Bahamut Shark and Abyss Trike is still a very good
Yeah.
play.
Bottomless
Uh,
shark. Yeah. It's just they have a lot of options again too.
yeah, like they can just make Honor Arc pretty easily now too. It's just really good. Like marksmen get what's his name? Dragoons, Aqua Spirit if they play it, make the rank 4. It's got a lot of options. It can play it forces your opponent to be very reactive because like if they don't respond to one Megalo or if they don't respond to like one Teus, then you could allow them to get like
And
advantage.
they snowball the games very easily. It's just a
Yes.
downward. Like I wouldn't even call it a grind. It's just a downward slope.
Hmm.
Um, let's say the game 2 against the Mermail is like probably where you're going to start beating them. They have very very good game 1. But game 2 with the debunk, stop the lens. Um, what else would you run in the side decks?
All the floodgate cards are better, or are good against Mermail, D-Fissure, Macro, Soul Drain, Banisher if you have the option to play it. But,
Yeah, anything that just stops their graveyard effects just
mhm.
pretty much just wrecks them. Um,
Some cards that are okay, but like are obviously because this is the whole thing with them, and has been the thing with them in the past. Like trap cards can be good against them, certain traps, but then they're also just dead in the face of marksman. Blackhorn is okay uh, for stopping the rank 7, but it's easy marksman bait. Fiendish Chain, which is actually seeing a little bit more of a rise in play now without main deck MSTs, is really good. It stops Pike from going off, and they can't marksman it at that point, so that's also a good card. And then, yeah, like all the floodgate cards are pretty good. Debunk, I think you mentioned Debunk. It's
yeah,
pretty
debunk
decent.
debunk is probably the best card against them.
I would
It,
say like that isn't a floodgate card, yeah, and
but
that's sided,
it's
across
just
the
very
board.
good.
Yeah,
People have been maining debunk,
have
interestingly
a
enough, because it's
that's pretty good.
just that good. It hits pretty much everything. All right, let's move on to the next deck, Infernity. Uh, the Scourge of 2011?
2010.
2010. Oh wow, that's extremely old. But they're back with
Yep,
all their shenanigans. That they
they
just
all go
have
for die too.
so many plays and so many random cards you wouldn't expect, like the instant fusions into the lava chains, the summoner monks. I saw some variants running Sylvan Charity. Like they would.
Yeah.
That's
So just put
that's
them in.
it's just too funny. Like
Yeah.
you just put the
I think
Archfiend on
Konami
the
had
deck.
a lot of foresight with this deck, more so than I've seen them have with any other deck. Maybe Three Axis Fist because I remember they got hit before they could
Yeah.
ever do anything, but especially with this deck because they put barrier to 1. And if they knew that they were going to release Soul Charge, then I can see why they put barrier 1 because the deck can easily just end their turn with a couple of breaks and a barrier down, and you're just
Yeah.
kind of locked out of the game right there.
They're
They don't
extremely
play
strong.
Yugioh. Really, that's the deck. Like if you want to find a deck in a format where it tries to make it so you can't play Yu-Gi-Oh, it would be Infernity or probably Bujin. And I would say Infernity more so because that's really all they're trying to do.
Yeah,
Like, they're
that
not
they
trying
just
to
want to
enter.
win games by setting their hand and establishing a board and just making you play like reactively and stopping on your plays. This is very strong. DD Crow banishes their Archfiend if it's engraved and they try and bring it back with like launcher or anything like that, but there's really not much that you can do
Yeah,
against them.
that was the thing. Infernity has it's seeing an uprising as well because people aren't actively maining hand traps anymore because outside of that matchup, they're not very good at the moment.
Mhm.
Here they can mitigate C, they can mitigate Veiler. Pat doesn't really care about C or Veiler. Madolche. Hand traps are actually okay against them, but no one really mains effect Veiler. So Infernity has a really good uprising now because no one's main decking or hardly side decking any hand traps, but if you're going to side any, DD Crow is probably the best paired with your Max C's.
Yeah.
Because it can remove like anything that they tried, like the Archfiend or the Stygian or anything like that.
Yeah, that's why I kind of hate like formats when there's so many decks because you have to side against like everything.
And
Like
it's hard.
it's
To
hard,
really fit
exactly.
in
Like you
50
forget
cards.
one deck and suddenly you're like X2 on the bubble and it's like uh-oh.
Yeah, like I didn't side enough for like Bujin or something, and now here I am at X2.
Yeah, it's like
Like just
well, should
wishing
have
for
ran
that.
light imprisonings.
Hmm.
Um Okay, that's pretty much all we have to say about Infernity. Very strong deck.
Very
Not
based.
much. Yeah,
They haven't lost any ground aside. Like the barrier thing wasn't really a big deal.
it's
Soul Charge was the main boon for them
yeah.
as well.
I see.
Now they have so many options to just combo out. It's ridiculous.
All right, on to the next deck. The cute and delicious Madolche.
Very delicious.
Yeah. I don't know. When I saw their effects, like as soon as they got released in the one pack, I was like, what do these guys do? I don't really see any consistency. They're just kind of there.
Yeah,
And
they just recycle themselves. Like, what's the point? Right?
and then we got Madolche and Jelly, which was whoa.
Yes.
That was
That card really just put them over the top. It lets them float monsters. Next turn, you can leverage the pluses into rank 4s, rank 3s. They're It's hard to really outgrind them. They can always recover their resources. Their recursion is amazing.
yeah.
The Dolce ticket is just absolutely retarded. Like if you um, get rid of a monster, then they'll replace it immediately, and
It's very hard to generate advantage on them when they just keep replacing their stuff with hand or ticket and chateau, and then especially if they're running the hand variant, which seems to be the more popular variant. As people are realizing you have to run the hands because other people are running the hands, and you just need to keep crashing them like until they.
One of the main reasons I think, because this is actually my deck of preference. This is what I'm playing right now. One reason I like the hands is because it limits the amount of brick hands you can draw. Like,
Yeah.
for example, you could draw a hand of like a couple of traps and like a mutual, and you're sitting there like, well, this isn't very good. But then you could also draw traps, a mutual, and a hand, and all of a sudden, okay, well, I can sit on this opening.
Yeah, it just
create
makes
my
like
combo pieces.
brick hands like very playable.
For sure.
All right. Side deck against the Madolche. The Crows stop their Angeli into who kick plays. Debunks stop them from going back to the deck. I don't know. I really don't know what to side against them. I don't have too much experience playing against the Madolche.
That's the thing. Out of every deck right now, aside from maybe Geargia, and Yugioh and Madolche are probably the hardest decks to side for.
Yeah.
There isn't like one card that really does a lot to stop Madolche aside from Rivalry of Warlords, and not a lot of decks can actually decide that themselves.
Yeah.
Aside from maybe Geargia.
Hats can't side it. D-Rollers can. Infernity can't side that. Bujin can't really side that.
Mermail can't side it.
Nope. So that's pretty much not going to be seen.
Crow isn't a bad option because it stops the hoot cake. If you can stop the hoot cake,
That's what you need to do. You need to stop the hoot cake and stop. Like if you stop that play, then it gives you a chance to establish a board and try and get some ground back. But if it goes off like game one, I'd say they have the strongest game one in the meta right now. They're just very strong. But
like Trapstone into game that's how I win. Like my game one percentages of winning are ridiculous. Like I haven't lost a game one in like recent memory, and that's not even to sound arrogant. This is true. Like the game one is so strong. If you can stop the hoot cake, it's pretty good. I wouldn't if it's early game. If it's like your turn one, then even just having Crow is pretty good. Black Ship is really good against them too because hoot cake can't die if it's brought out by Angeli. But it can die to card effects, so if you can summon Black Ship, remove the hoot cake, and kind of just stabilize the board, then you're looking like you're in a pretty good spot.
Yeah.
And then just general back row removal, like the traps that are good now, also give them an issue too. So like if you just play like intelligently, and just have the right cards, I know it's not really the best logic to give or insight to give, but just being able to utilize and gain the most value out of your traps is really important. Like if you have the Blackhorn. If you can roll it for the turn they go for Tiara Masu, then that's good. Sometimes they'll have the Trapstone. There's not much you can do against that.
Anything you can do to stop their recycling is like how you win the game, basically.
Yeah, you definitely want to. If you're not siding Space Typhoon, if you have the room for it, I would consider it. Dust Tornado is not a bad option. Like you want to be able to snipe out the continuous cards.
Yeah, or you're just going to blow your cards and then they'll hit you again with exactly what they did this turn.
Yep, they'll just recycle all their resources and continue to play next turn, and you're just sitting there like, wow, I really can't do much against this.
All right.
Blackhorn is really good though because you wait for them to make, like, when they make a seed and then you Blackthorn them, they won't get anything back with Ticket or Chateau. So cards like Blackthorn and obviously Warning are very, very effective because it stops them from triggering Ticket if you stymie their play with those cards.
Alright, let's go on to the next deck. Bujin. Bujin, kind of. They were the dark horse when they came out. Their playstyle has definitely changed with Hirume and the other one that special summons them. They kind of just turned into a rank.
I haven't seen a sword, that guy, but
Yeah.
I've heard of him. I know Hirume is like another reason why it's actually still playing.
Yeah, it's basically turned into, or move more from a protect the castle deck with Yamato into, like, we can actually make some rank 4s now with, like, Harume and Bujin Carnation and things like that.
I mean, the concept is still relatively the same. Like, you still want to just protect the castle, as you put it. But Hirume kind of adds an element to the deck where, like...
It's like, if they do break down the castle walls, it's like, alright, I'm fine. It used to be, it's like, I don't have Yamato. Let's go to game 2.
Because now it's like, okay, well, if you get past the lock, if you can remove Yamato, well, now I'm going to summon another card that works with all of my other protection guys, and you're right back to square one. You have to get through this one. And this one has 2,000 attack and probably bigger if you have Tenki on the field.
Yeah,
so
it's
a lot. It gave them basically what they needed to continue their strategy.
It's very, very strong. That's pretty much all I have to say about the deck. They get shit on very hard by the side deck. Light Imprison.
Also, playing aggro against them is the best thing you can do. Just try and break the lock every turn.
Go in on them.
Playing against Spellbook. You want to, like, you're trying to get them to use 8 and try and get 8 out of the way. You want Bujin to kind of just burn all of their hares and their turtles, and then you can just swing over the Yamato and kind of play around Crane if you can. That's another thing. Black Ship. He's steadily becoming like one of my favorite rank 4s because he's just an answer to so many situations.
Yeah, sending to the graveyard is such a powerful effect.
For sure.
So, always make sure you have the black one.
They're more likely to dump the hares than they are the turtles right now. So you can easily just summon a Black Ship and kind of just steal control of the game right there.
Make sure you always have your Book of Moon against the Bujin so they can't crow you or honest you. I don't think people are playing the 3 crow anymore. It's like 2 crow, 1 honest.
Crane.
Crane. I don't know why I said crow. But yeah, Bujin Crane. I mean, it's funny when people like misplay with that. Some of the bad Bujin players, like, they would double crane you and not realize that it only makes its attack like double its original attack.
For one battle too.
Yeah. So, people misplay. They misplay a lot with Bujins. I'd say they're pretty hard to pilot. Like, you have to know what to send to the graveyard and things like that.
I mean, it's hard to pilot to success. It's an easy deck to play,
but
sure.
To the top levels, not so much. Like, you have to know what you're doing or you're just going to get shit on.
And then, of course, just one of the main reasons I would never even, like, consider playing it for a main event is you have to see the motto. Like, you can't... go past, like,
that's why people run like triple duality, triple tanky. Like, they need this card.
Yeah, like every consistency card has to see Yamato turn 1. Like, if you ever go past like turn 2 without it, you're probably going to lose that game more than likely. I mean, it doesn't actually happen as often as you might think it could because of how many thinners and how many searches the deck plays to see the card as early as possible. But it can happen, and when it does, it's not a very good deck at all.
Yeah. It's pretty funny. Okay, we can move on to the next deck now. There's not really much to say. This is probably one of my favorite decks that are coming up now, but they're not quite there, and that is the Evols.
Yes, the evolution dinosaurs.
Yeah.
Geargia and Volca returned.
I mean, when they came out, we were like, okay, these guys really suck, but they have great exceeds. No one like ran any of the Evol Sword or Evol Tile guys. They ran like rabbits and like Hydrogeddons, like things like that, just to get the Logias out and the like Dolkos and stuff. But now their recent support, Evo Force and Evo Singularity, makes them pretty insane when you let them sit up on you.
Evil Force is the spell card, correct?
Yeah,
Oh,
Evo
that
Force.
I don't think that was too recent. That came out with all the other stuff.
Evo Force?
Well, like I know it was like a short time in between, like when the Joshua and Force came out. Like they're the older ones for sure.
Alright, well, basically, I don't know when they came out, but Evo Force and Evo Singularity makes them a deck to be reckoned with, more
Yes.
so Evo Singularity than Force, because let's say they have Logia on board and like one back row, so you like try and dark hole their Logia, and it blows its materials, and then they just make another Logia with Evo Singularity. It's extremely strong. Just
Uh, that's really like one of the cards that kind of just defies logic of Yu-Gi-Oh. Like you can use a trap card to make any rank between 4 and I guess 6,
yeah,
right?
any evils are monster.
Any evil, yeah, any evil rank between 4 and 6. So previously, when you wanted to try and make this deck, you couldn't really play Soldier.
Yeah,
None of the level
you would
sixes
not
were
play
good
Sold.
at all.
Sold is extremely good in this meta, by the way. It stops all the destruction from hats. Can't blast through them. Just it's just a lot. He brings a lot of utility to the deck.
Solda, it's ironic because I think it was a good card like always. Obviously, like it's
It
very
was just hard to make because
it's
no one
hard to
ran
bring out.
the level 6 dinosaurs.
And now with Evo Singularity, you have the option, and he just becomes so much better.
Yeah, the basic play with the deck is like you Najasho Evo Force or like set Westlow, and that's their main problem. That they're kind of slow if you don't have the cards you need. So if
Another
like
thing is like drawing the evil stars is like
yeah,
really bad. Like, you never want to draw
you
any of them.
don't want to draw them. Besides like maybe a Serato. That's it. You do not
Yeah,
want to
that's
draw the 1200 attack guy or the 1600 attack guy whose effects go off on their special summon. No one's running the Primordial Soup, which is their card shuffler or whatever. So
which you don't
yeah,
probably get around.
I wouldn't run that ever. So that's just one of their probably main problem. If your opponent like makes a big turn one play, gets like a big XYZ on the field, you're kind of fucked then too. Uh,
Like the sequence of turns you kind of want to go is you kind of want to see if you can resolve either a Najasha with Force or a Westlow, try and make the rank 4, and then after you've expended materials, flip the Singularity.
yeah,
The problem here though is like, let's say they stop your initial rank 4, and then they have like Wiretap or Trap Stun for like the Singularity, then you're kind of just blown out of the water. It's very slow, but if you go first and you kind of just see like next to the ideal hand or as close to possible as an ideal start, then you're in a pretty good position.
yep.
Like it's their Logi and Dolka. Like those cards have always been a
This,
problem. So.
this deck is another deck that like you need to play skillfully and know what to Logia and like what to Dolka. Well, Dolka not so much, but you need to know like what to Logia.
Yes, you have to hold your Logia for probably. You have to know when to do it.
Yeah,
Actually.
like exactly because there's just so much you can negate with it, but you have to negate the right thing.
Like Logia is definitely like we were talking about. I remember when we were testing the deck, and Logia is probably the better of the two, just because it has the most synergy with Singularity.
Yeah, because you just dump both materials at the same time. So you'd be like Westlow, whatever, and I don't know. Usually they would just run over the Westlow, but I don't know. Pretty strong just because of
I
their.
like the one of you showed me that dumps one. That card is very synergetic. You really don't need you don't need to play it in more than multiples. I don't know his name. The level 3, that Foolish is one, right?
Who?
What's his name? The level 3 where
When he's
it's
flipped.
special
Oh, the
Foolish?
Laga Sucho. Yeah, yeah. You don't need. You only need one of him. He can. He's versatile too, because he can summon an evil tile or dump an evil czar. So he can help your deck in some sticky situations.
Yes.
Their matchups aren't that great because there's a lot of decks that can be aggressive right now, and that's what they don't like. They're more of like a control slower deck
For sure.
that wants to get like their big board on the field and then start swinging for damage.
Like they want the game to be as slow as possible at any given
Yeah,
move.
they're like, okay, now I've got my Logia and Dolka out. Now I can attack into you. I don't think they inherently do good against any deck just
No.
because of the way they work. but if it gets a good hand, then it's very possible, because these have been like topping and winning a few regionals here and there. So that's all I have to say about them.
I mean, it's funny because like the deck doesn't draw like very well consistently enough, but when it does, it's kind of like Rabbit was. You can't stop them. It's hard
Yep.
to break the lock.
And no one sides against this deck specifically. And this is probably like one of the only decks that can main deck like enemy controllers and benefit so highly off of it by tributing the Yugioh.
Yeah, definitely.
That's what I
It
like
turns
too.
it into a brain control
Especially
kind
when
of,
people are running the wiretaps and can't do anything against the econ.
Yep.
Alright, now we're gonna move on to the next deck. My favorite deck in the game. And the deck that I will probably play at every event I go to, Lightsworn. The big bad cards that make people scoop because you sack them, and they're getting their new support in a few weeks. I think in 2 weeks or less, actually. Just not much to say about them except that they're extremely strong.
I guess we can talk about the support.
Yeah, we can talk about the support. What about the only really good cards that they got is Raiden and Michael out of their like. I mean, Fleas is a good, like an okay one of, but I don't know. I was testing her. I didn't really like her.
I didn't like her either. Like I thought she was pretty good at
She's-
first,
yeah.
and then like the more I played her, I was like, I mean, it's really not that great. Like Curry Bandit summons.
Yeah,
me, but
Curry
what good is that
Bandit
gonna-
helps that deck an immense amount too. That should have just been Lightsworn Curry Bandit. But you know, JD's still JD. He's at 3. Just pops whole boards.
Like they slowly let that deck come back into like not like being relevant, but like they're 2 charge of the Light Brigade back from being what they were. So.
Yeah, they're strong. Like I don't think they've ever been like.
Rulings also help them out too. Like ignition priority not being a thing anymore is definitely like a hurt piece. Like you can't just summon JD into the bottom.
Yeah, exactly. You can't just JD pop their field even though they like bottomless or book you, but you could still like, or you can't. Or no, you can JD book, right?
Oh, what do you mean?
Like summon JD, activate effect book.
Well,
Can you
no,
not do
if
that
they book
anymore?
a moon, if they book a moon on summon.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, so that kind of sucks for them. That used to be one of their power plays. What else? They just have like so many big guys they can summon and just kill you that way. So they could just like triple JD or like double JD BLS you, and if you do not have the back row, you just die that game. And it's like, did that really just happen? It's like I have my wiretaps and like whatever people set, or like Compulse, but Compulse isn't going to do anything against JD. He's just going to nuke your field and drop himself again, and then you pretty much just die. So strong in general. I'm not going to talk about Sanctuary yet. That's what I'm going to do before I end the show, just because I just want to take time out and do it. Their matchups right now are pretty not that great, just because of the back rows. Like the sheer amount of back row people are running. Lila isn't like super powerful because she usually just gets like interrupted or something, and just kind of sucks. Triple Lumina still good. Curry Bandit helps the deck an extreme amount. The Lightsworn Dragon Roller variant is strong as hell. Gives consistency to the deck. I don't know what else to say, but
if you're gonna play them now, you would probably play them with the Dragon Rules.
yeah,
for sure.
that's probably it. But I just like the pure Lightsworn so much better. Like that's what I've always played. If I played Lightsworn, or I played like my variant with like the Gale Zephyrus, and I was looking at the one Blackwing who also has the Zephyrus effect, whatever his name is, Cloth or Steam. And he summons himself from the grave, so you could like Zephyrus a monster back to your hand, and then use the Steam effect, and then Black Rose them for free with that combo as well. I haven't tested that, but that's all I really have to say about the Lightsworn. They're one of the decks, the few decks that could main deck Decree, which is strong as hell, because most decks run like
Yes.
11 to 15 traps. It's just a
It's
huge.
interesting you mentioned that because I forgot that Bujin, they can main deck Decree, and if I would say like if you're going to play Bujin right now, I would try the main deck Decree because like it's just better now because you're gonna stop them from kind of just
Yeah, if you get a Decree out,
Yamato
yeah, that's what I was talking
your
about.
Yamato is gonna just kind of get roll through them and then you can make Susano without much problem and kind of just take the game
Yeah,
from
if you
there.
sit on Decree, Kaiser Coliseum, and Yamato, uh, if they're not maining like the hands or MSTs, then it's pretty safe to say that you're going to generate a lot of advantage.
Yeah, you're gonna win that game
Yeah.
for sure.
um, is there any other decks that are up and coming that you want to talk about?
What'd you say?
So, are there any other meta decks that you want to talk about that I may have missed?
Let's see. Thinking, did we miss anything? Looking at this list here. Sylvan. I guess we could talk about Sylvan.
All right, yeah, we can do that. I'm sure some people would like to hear opinions on Sylvans.
Consider,
All right,
yeah.
so Sylvan suck. End of story. There we go. No, that's not fair. But they're just too inconsistent right now. I mean,
I would say like in the right player's hands, if they draw well, it could be
yeah, like
probably one of
they
the
could
better
Loon
decks
Fire into
actually.
Sage Koya, and like just double Sage Koya, which is the Black Forest, or not, which is the Black Forest, Black Fallen Angel Witch or something. Um, they have
Like they have the ability to create like the bird thing, like a
yeah, that bird
Felbrand,
is very
and just
stupid.
a bunch of cards in their hand, and then like some traps, and that's okay. But they also have the potential to brick
Yeah.
an insane
Oh
amount.
my
Like so
god.
many hits can just
If
dead.
you yeah, if you're not running the three dualities and three Sylvan Charity, uh, you put those in your Sylvan deck like right now, or you're going to end up with multiple like brick
It's
hands.
like it's really an issue because like it's not even that. Like they can either brick, they can whiff on their excavating cards. Like Curry Bandit is probably the best card for the deck, and that's because it hits five. Like any of the other effect, like the ones that
Yeah.
just hit like one or two, like you could easily whiff on those, and it's like, well, there goes your turn.
Exactly. There, I just don't see them being too competitive, even though there's a bunch of them in the alternate alter reality games qualifiers championships for Puerto Rico. There's like two or three
Oh,
Sylvan
they're
decks.
there.
Yeah. I don't know if they like stream that. Probably not though. But I was looking at the decks for that, and there's a few Sylvans. There's some interesting stuff there, but not too standard. I think that's all the meta decks that we need to talk about, right?
No, I think that's pretty much it.
Okay. Now we're going to go into the next segment called Side Deck Techs. Talk about what cards people are starting to use, how to use them, why they are good. Um, Pretty much that's it. Like what can play them. Number one, a very interesting card uh, that I believe has potential right now, just because people aren't running the MSTs. Um, Cloak and Dagger.
So that's the one where what is that name's a effect monster or something, and it can't use its effect,
No,
or
that's it. You name an effect monster, and if your opponent summons it, you remove it from play. It's a continuous trap.
oh,
Um,
all right, yeah. I mean, I've seen it before, but
yeah.
I just wasn't sure on what it did.
The person who won Atlantic City Regional, who was playing Watts, ran that card, which is very interesting. He said it did absolute wonders for him. Like you could just flip it against pretty much like anything if you know they're going to make a play, uh, and then just banish a card. I like it. It's interesting, but as soon as people start running MST again, I wouldn't play it. Um,
Yeah,
Especially since you have to flip it before they attempt to summon the card, so you can't like chain it to its summon and then just banish it. That'd be way too broken. Um, that's all I have to say about that card.
I mean, I think it's a little weird. Like, so, like, what do you actually what do you what would you play it against?
Geargia.
Because it doesn't stop. Yeah, but it doesn't stop the effects, does it?
As soon as it gets summoned, it gets banished.
But Armor says that when this card is flipped face up.
Yeah, that's when it's flip summoned too.
So it would stop the effects.
Yeah,
That doesn't sound correct, though.
remove that monster in this card from play. I assume it would. Or else that would be kind of terrible. Because it wouldn't get priority, right?
Well, I mean, it's not a priority effect. There's no priority anymore. It's just when this card is flipped face up.
I'm not sure about that one, but you would mainly use it like on their Gigant. Yeah. This card requires very good insight to know what your opponent will stop. And
because Geargia Armor is a trigger, so it wouldn't stop armor, but I guess Geargia.
yeah, you would just play it. It's another like play stopper. Like if you have to think like ahead to know what your opponent wants to do, like what could they possibly do, and you need to have like many thought pass and to like use this card correctly. Next card we're moving on to. I mentioned this a little earlier in the cast, but King Tiger Wanghu. It's been one of my favorite cards for a while. Like I used to side deck that and everything, even when it wasn't that great. But King Tiger eats all the Geargias except Geargia Arsenal.
All the little Madolche monsters.
Yeah, all the little Madolches. Hoot Cake is 1,000, right? Or is he 15?
Hoot Cake is 15.
Okay, it wouldn't stop Hoot Cake, but it would eat the Angeli.
It would eat the Angeli, but like I think it's interesting because it's okay against them, but all they have to do is summon a Chateau and then like nothing really dies except move at that point, which is unfortunate.
It what else does it eat? It eats like Ice Hand.
Yeah.
I don't know, but
Ice Hand would trigger though, wouldn't it?
Yeah, Ice Hand would trigger. Eats Evols, which aren't really a problem. Eats Luminas. Eats Feliz. Eats Watts.
I guess I think maybe it was just generally a Geargia side card, so they can just style
Yeah,
rank
it is probably just in there for Geargia, but very interesting. And he just eats little monsters like all day. Now, next card I want to talk about is it's simple, and you just very quickly understand why people run it as soon as this loads. But I want to talk about Magic Cylinder. With the amount of aggressive decks and people just kind of not running the MSTs, which is a lot of reason why cards are being played that really wouldn't be played, but it's just consistent damage. And people, when they attack in a 1 Magic Cylinder and get slammed for 2k in the face, they're very wary to attack again. It just...
Did you see this in any side decks? Like, I've never seen it.
This is just the Watt deck from Atlantic City. But this is like side deck choices that you could possibly run.
Well, I think that was really more tailor-made for that deck.
Yeah.
Because there are some cards right now that are better than in some decks than in other decks. Like, for example, Fiendish Chain. It's being seen a little bit more now in some decks because of the lack of space.
Yeah.
But it's also because it's better in some decks, like Spellbook. You don't want them to, that's another deck we should have talked about, by the way. You don't want them to, you want to use Fate last. So anything you can get them to deter, like to save your Fate, and stop them from aggroing over your Blue Boy is going to be good. That's why Mirror Force is really good, because they're going to commit a lot of monsters to the field to try and get you, to force you to use Fate, or to make it like, play it in an unfavorable situation. So I think Cylinder was like that for the Watt deck because it just...
Yeah, because they consistently apply like small damage.
Like breaking a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Like you're swinging for a couple grand every turn directly, and then you just have Cylinder to kind of just finish the job.
Finish games. I just think like no one expects it, and it can steal games just because it's on the field. But with wiretap being a thing, still, it's very easily countered. But it's just a funny card to think about. And I'm a fan of it, but I probably wouldn't use it.
You're gonna have to give me a second. I have to actually use the bathroom.
Okay.
This is kind of
I'm
awkward.
just going to do
I didn't
some
explain what we would do.
viewer questions now, I suppose, while he's using the bathroom, and then he can chime in when he gets back.
Okay,
Alright, Falcon
that's
Chris
fine.
777 asks Majesty's Fiend for Nationals. I know that it's being ran in hand artifact Traptrix decks to pretty good success. It's very good for the same reason why Skill Drain's good, but not many decks can run Skill Drain right now. Monster effects are probably the most important thing in the game right now. 'Cause that's pretty much how all decks are like run off of. Geargia is run off of all their effects, like Geargiano, Geargia Armor. It stops all of that. No hand effects, no artifact effects, no trap trick effects, but usually if you play it in your deck, you'd play around it and you'd use it smartly if you're a competent player. It stops the dragon rulers, can't summon them, I believe. Mermail stops at every deck right now. So that's why it's such a good card. So if you're playing like Frog Monarchs with Majesty's Fiend, that'd be pretty good. I think it's like slowly rising in price too. Last time I checked. Yeah, it's $24 now. I think yesterday it was like 18 or something, like 18.20. But it's slowly rising in price because people are realizing how good it is. It's very annoying, and it's a blower. It's definitely a card that you have to spend one or multiple cards on to get off the field as quickly as possible. Does anyone else have any questions? Let's see. Yeah, even the hand traps don't work too, which is pretty big. Even though people don't really run the Valor anymore, but just a lot. It's just hard to get over with like uh, any monsters that can be normal summoned in today's decks. 24 is still a pretty big attack. If you look at extra decks right now, no one's really running anything like over 2,500 attack. I think if people like play like a crazy box, but that's only like against skill drain decks. I don't think anything else has to be said about this card. Other than it's extremely good, and it can win games by itself if opponent doesn't have like the warning or like deep prison or outs to it. So we can go into the next side deck card now that I'd like to talk about. Mind Control, even though it should be mained. Alright, Falcon Chris has another question. Constellar Artifacts, sleeper deck for Nationals? I don't think so, personally. It's because Constellar aren't in that great a place right now. I mean, Pallades is good. And they have rank 4 plays at the S, but Pallades is already played in Artifacts. Yeah. But this card's just really dumb, and they can make it with like 2 artifacts.
Okay, I'm back.
Alright, we're talking about Constellar Artifacts being like a sleeper deck for Nationals.
Constellar Artifacts?
Yeah.
That sounds interesting, I guess.
Sounds interesting. I'm just trying to say I won't do that great.
I mean, they definitely have access to Pallades a lot easier.
Yeah.
What else? I would say that, and probably the destruction helps. Like being able to. I mean, it's not, like ignition's okay to get rid of the back row so your Pallades sticks, I suppose. But I'm not sure how well it could actually be. Like how good it could be.
I just don't think it can compete with everything. Like everything else is much faster. That's just my feeling on it.
I mean, yeah, that's true. It has a good Evil Swarm matchup as well. We didn't talk about that deck either.
I don't think they're relevant enough.
They've been doing okay recently. I wouldn't count them out. Like they're definitely not tier one deck, but
Yeah, I
you
think.
can definitely you'll see them. I would say in the
Uh,
tournament at least
yeah,
once. Like it's likely you'll
it's a
see them.
possibility.
You
But
can see anything at least
yeah,
once.
this is probably the best format for rogue decks in quite a while.
Definitely.
And that's like what I like playing is rogue decks or Lightsworn. So
Hmm.
um overall Constellar artifacts not that strong. Uh but if you're having success with it, good on you. I myself don't see them really going anywhere. And then back to what I was talking about, for a side deck tech, mind control, if you're not maining it, it has to be in the side.
Oh, we didn't even talk about mind control, did we?
Now we're talking.
That part is dirty.
It's back. Like, it's just such a good card. Like,
It's a great card.
it hits, or it's just like an out. I'd say mind control is an out now. That's weird to call it like an out, but usually,
It is.
when it was played at like, wasn't it at 3 in the Synchro decks? Like back when Synchros came out.
Synchro Cat.
Yeah.
Yeah, Synchro Cat. It was a 3. People usually just played 2.
Yeah, mind control.
It's really good. It takes the hands.
Yeah.
Everybody, if you're like aside from I guess what deck would it be playing a rank 4 right now?
Yeah.
Like the top 3 decks are Hat, Madolche, Geargia, all rank 4 based. So
Mhm. So you steal. It's just versatile. You can like steal like one of their big monsters like with an effect like detach their material, whatever. Just uh, so much you can do
I
with
just
it.
like how it's like it just lets you get over the hands.
Yeah, it lets you get over
Like,
hands, Geargia
in
armor.
most instances, it's like, okay, if you're playing a deck that has like a +1 like engine like Geargia, it's okay because like you're really just investing one card into the rank 4. But even if you're just doing it with a 2-card investment and they have a trap to stop you, that's fine because like the hands really just control the pace of the game, and to be able to just stop them is well worth it, I would say.
Yeah, it it just helps establish board control and just like
Yes.
mess there. Like they could have like an amazing hand and then you just mind control them and their hand turns to complete shit because you take their key piece of like their setup.
Yep.
So that's all to say about that. Run mind control. It's one of the better generic cards in the format.
Sure.
I don't see it not being ran in like anything. The next card I want to talk about is enemy controller. Uh, Only because of the fact that it gets around the wiretap and you can game people with it unexpectedly. There's not much to say about that. Do you have anything to add on Econ?
I mean, if you're playing Evils, it's probably one of the better cards in your deck.
Yeah.
I don't know if I would consider playing it in anything else, but it's it's really good in Evils.
Alright, and for the last side deck cards, basically on the premise, like same premise of mind control, the fire hand and ice hand. If your deck isn't maining them, then you probably side into them. Extremely common. They're just extremely broken,
They're good.
splashable
Yes.
into everything. I feel like recently,
There isn't much to analyze about them. They're that good.
yeah,
They're probably the most. You would think like, okay, when that set came out, Dragon's a Legend, you're like Soul Charge is like the stones, but
yeah,
the hands have actually just become better than Soul Charge at the moment. It's crazy.
yeah. That they're just splashable. We probably got some of the most splashable engines like in a while in the hands artifacts.
That's exactly why rogue matchups can do like as well as
Yep,
as
it's
they
the hands.
could.
They just enable so many rogue decks. Like they solve problems of a lot of decks too, like Madolche and some Geargia.
Mhm.
And then they just make some other deck like Cat themselves fucking viable because they're dumb. Now we're going to go into the next segment. Tournaments around the world. We're going to start by talking about the Dutch Nationals and their top 16. The deck list, or the top 16 decks consisted of one Spellbook, which was the winner, 3 Infernity. One of the Infernity decks came in second place. 3 Mermail. I thought it was like 4 or 5 Mermail, but I was
Yeah, I
wrong.
thought it was at least 3 for
Yeah,
sure.
it's 3 Mermail, 2 Madolche, 2 Hat decks, 1 Dragon Ruler. It was like Blue Eyes Dragon Ruler, 3 Geargia, 1 Bujin, and 1 Fire Fist Hands. Uh, which is surprising. I didn't think it was that great, but if someone piloted it well, it could still be uh, viable. The spellbook list was basically, I'm not sure if you guys watched ARG Washington DC, but it was Jared's deck minus 4 cards. Like 4 cards were changed, and
Yeah. Jared Randolph, he's a player from my area as well.
yeah, it's
He definitely came up. I gotta hand it to him for sure.
yeah. Spellbook's still viable if you pilot it well.
Hmm.
It ran 9 monsters, which is the lowest monster count I've ever seen in a deck, personally. And, like, I don't remember. Like, that's just insane. 9 monsters, like, 20 spells. Uh, that's just spellbooks, man. They're hard to play, definitely. I gotta give that guy props for playing it so well. I can't play them for shit. There's too many cards. Like, just too many ways to play out your turn.
Yeah, it's like Sylvan. It requires an immense amount of thinking.
Yeah. That's not decks I like to play. Infernity deck. I don't think there's like anything different about those besides like the spellbooks. But what I did see in the 16 decks, interesting cards were main deck, Neospace and Grandmal in both of the hat decks. He could definitely.
I ran into that on the ladder when I was playing match a couple of days ago. It was pretty surprising.
Grandmal, yeah, Grandmal's good against. He just nets pluses by bouncing exceeds, big monsters. Anything that it takes you resources to summon, he'll be good against.
Rammel's just a one card out.
Yep. Now he's basically like a compulse on legs. And then
Something the hat deck is very much appreciative to me and everything.
yeah, and then the other card I want to talk about that I saw in the one Madolche deck, I don't know what place it got, but I think it was like 7th or 8th. It ran 2 Spell Striker. The Earth level 3, you remove a monster, or you remove a spell from your graveyard, and then special summon him, and he can like attack directly or something. No. It's just yeah.
When I was playing the Madolche deck, when I was testing options, there are a lot of I call them the combo extender cards, like Spell Striker, Instant Fusion, and Double Summon. And I guess Palooza to an extent too, but I don't really want to get into that card. I think that's terrible. But
I definitely
I was
see.
playing around with a lot of the extender cards, and I didn't. The problem I had with Spell Striker was it only lets you go into Levier, which is fine because if you resolve the turn 1 standard play Angelian to Hootcake, then it helps you actually crank out a Tiara Masu. But I didn't like how they kind of just added unnecessary combo element to your deck. Like you can go into that play without falling victim to Max C. Which is the same concept of instant fusion.
Yeah.
And on top of that, instant fusion also makes you take up valuable spots in your extra deck. Like I'm still working on my extra deck. Like I just recently put in number 80 because I was playing a game the other night and I was wishing I had it and I did it. So
that's the Rhapsody guy, right? Who banishes.
Yeah, that's the one banishes.
That's the XYZ armory arm.
Mm-hmm. No, yeah. But yeah, I mean, I don't like those combo extender cards because they force you into like positions in game 2 where like you're just gonna get max seed and like I mentioned, like you can still make those plays in the Madolche deck. You just don't have to play like an 8. But out of the 3 that I did like was Double Summon. Double Summon is great because it lets you play your better cards without really having to expend much. Like it's not like going to be a -1 because all of your monsters generate advantage usually. Like Cake, Angeli, Mageline, all those monsters allow you to generate advantage and replace it. It's also good with Muful because you can kind of just put more monsters on the field and establish your position without really giving up much. Like you're not giving up an extra deck slot if you were to run Instant Fusion you're not playing a card that kind of relies on you having another level 3. Which okay, you have Hoot Cake, that shouldn't be a problem. So I mean, I guess Spell Striker isn't the worst, but it's probably not the best option either. And I definitely don't like any of the TG engine. Just I think
Yeah,
that's just
I don't
not
think the
necessary.
TGN is that great. It seems very lackluster, but
Yeah.
it's just like cards to combo that you didn't really need. And the Madolche deck that was running the Spell Strikers did not get a 7th or 8th place. It got 11th place. It wasn't running the double summons. It was running one
Yeah, it's
ticket,
not
2
even Spell Striker.
Chateau. It was main deck 3 MST and like a Dark Hole. And like a Rhoda too to search out. Messin Gelato, I guess?
For what?
Rhoda? Isn't. No, Messin
Oh,
Gelato is a
really?
Beast Warrior. Who's.
No, he's a warrior.
Oh, Messin Gelato is a Warrior. Okay.
So they're playing Rhoda to search it?
I guess. I don't know. It's in there. And
That's
then the
kind of
other
weird.
Madolche deck wasn't playing Double Summon either.
Oh, for his Spell Striker, I guess.
Yeah. Is playing. I think that's a pudding cess that
I
I
mean, I
see.
guess you research. You don't really want to draw the message gelatos, but I guess if you have like a Mufle in your hand, it's not the
Yeah.
worst.
That deck wasn't playing Mufle either. Whoa.
No Mufle?
No. That's insane. That list is very varied. And it was the one that got 15th place was playing double Palooza.
I really don't understand what people see in that card. It's literally a worse ultimate offering. And it pretty much says you have to be going in with Chateau to even use this card. Like, if you don't have Chateau or you didn't get, like, all of your monsters back off of it, basically it says, like, yeah, you have to get hit with, like, Torrential or, like, something like that to even use this
Yeah.
card. It's just not necessary. Like, it can do a big turn randomly, but it's just, I don't think it's that good.
Alright, the next tournament we're going to talk about that happened overseas was the Alternate Reality Games Champ Qualifier for Puerto Rico. Standard top 16 for the most part. There's about 3 Sylvan decks, 2 Bujins, Worm Hands, and then the one deck that was really interesting was a Dragon Roller deck. It was like Blue Eyes Dragon Roller. It was second place. It main decked 3 Malevolent Catastrophe and 3 Skill Drain. That to me says, I don't know how you get away with running 3 Malcat and 3 Skill Drain. Malcat is, like, especially in a deck where you establish, like, big monsters on board, and it needs them to attack for the Malcat to resolve, or even activate. It's just interesting, to say the least. The 3 Skill Drain hurts pretty much every deck right now. We were talking about Majesty's Fiend earlier. One of the viewers asked the questions. Majesty's Fiend, being one of the cards in Nationals that will do very well.
Right. I think we were talking. Was it with you? I was
Yeah,
talking
we were
about that
talking
card?
about
Hat?
the frogs and hat. Yeah, we said it was being run in hat too. The one hat deck ran the Majesty's Fiend. And
Main deck?
yeah, main deck.
Oh, that's neat.
Hmm.
Yeah, that card's pretty good.
Yeah, anything that just negates effects. That's probably like all of the decks that are being ran now just activate
Yes.
off of effects. So if you
It's
shut
like
that down,
it's good for Hat against the Geargia matchup because it's such a climb for them usually, and it kind of just it helps them, like it's an equalizer for them. So I really like that card.
exactly. Let's see. The next tournament we're going to talk about is the Italian Nats. The deck that won, it was Inzector. The deck, it ran a lot of cards to dump stuff into the grave. It was a 3 Mathematician, Armageddon Knight, Foolish, 3 Soul Charge, 3 Duality, no Card Car, no Recklesses. And then the side deck was pretty interesting too. Macro, Defissure, Royal Decrees. I don't know why you'd run all the stuff to dump stuff into the graveyard and then just side Macro and Defissure.
I think an Inzector deck got first in YCS Philly and Swiss as well.
Yeah, Inzectors have just always been rogue deck. They're the definition of a rogue deck. Like, people just forget how to play against them and don't really side for them, and just forget that they can just kill you in one turn, pretty much.
Yep. Hornet is Hornet.
Yep,
Sure.
Hornet generates free cards all day, and they're very easy to swarm.
Pluses.
If they had like even just one more Dragonfly, they'd be like top tier again. Dragonfly's too broke. Alright, now we're going to just talk about some regionals, not nationals. We have Atlantic City regional. It was a Watt deck. It was very like weirdly ran. It was like a Watt Hunter deck. It ran like 3 Thunder Seahorse, 2 Paw Hunter, 3 Ma Hunter. It's a lot of stuff that I wasn't really expecting. No Messengers of Pieces. It's a very unstandard deck. I'm not like the tournament was only like 270 players or so I'm not sure if a bunch of good people didn't go or like what had happened, how he won.
It's probably a mix of both. Like, it was probably unexpected. There wasn't a very strong showing for many, like, decent people. I mean, if a deck having, like, we were talking about, like, a road deck with the surprise factor, people really just, they don't know how to deal with
Yeah.
it, and they fold up, and then they just give these decks wins. So, that guy was going into a game with, like, no one really understanding how to play against his deck. And then on top of that, it's just very hard to play against because it's pretty much like a stall deck. So
Yeah.
if you're just trying
He was playing like triple Fiendish, triple Wabaku, a lot. He was playing like 1 Mirror Force, double Deep Prison, just very unexpected cards that people don't generally build their deck around, and like don't even count for in their head. And like if you attack into 1 Mirror Force, you're going to be wary of another, so that's like another surprise factor kind of thing. But one of the plays which I thought was pretty cool was you would attack with Giraffe, and then main phase 2 exit on their board. So you could like turn 1, you going first, you would set the Dragonfly, bring out a Giraffe, attack them directly, and then exit on all their cards, and that'd be like a pretty good position to win the game right there, depending on how many cards you hit.
And then that's the reason why. Did he run any black horns in his deck?
Yeah, I think he main decked 1.
Yeah, so then he has ways to stop like the 1 out of Exiton from wrecking his field.
Yeah.
So triple Fiendish, the black horn. I mean, I would have liked to have seen 2 in his deck, but I mean, 1's not bad either. So
Yeah, his side deck was he had a lot of random cards in there. He had the Cloak and Dagger, which I guess he had the game knowledge to use that card.
Well, now that I'm thinking, like, you didn't mention that was in that deck. That's like another. I think that's like another one of those cards where it's just deck dependent, and it makes like that like a better option for them.
And then
It's just whatever removal, whatever play like card they need to stymie, it's like that's another card they have. So
he was running Electric Viruses too for the against Geargia.
Dragons.
That's what he said. Like he wanted to run it against Geargia only, but he never sided them
I
in.
like Geargia, yeah.
So
Did he have? I'm wondering. He didn't. Was he playing Cardi at all?
no, he wasn't playing core cards.
He was not playing Cardi. Well, I mean, I guess taking a Gear X isn't the best thing, but I mean, I'd rather see it against even against Dragons. It's not that great. I'm not sure what he was really thinking with that one, but.
And that's pretty much all I want to say about that deck. Number 2 on the regional winner list, we have Atlanta Regional, which was Dragon Roller Lightsworns.
It won, or it
won.
Topped?
It was number 1. And it ran 3 main deck Needlebug Nest, 3 main deck Curry Bandit, and 2 Relay Diablos. No Celestia main deck and no Raikou main deck. He didn't even side the Celestia, so that was like more focus on like speed.
Yeah, that's what it is with those variants. You know, cards like Raikou and Celestia are a little bit slower now.
Mm-hmm.
You need your normal to generate like Synchro or not well, I guess Synchro if you play. I don't really know his deck list, but you want the normal to generate Exceed plays. And then of course like there's breakthrough skill, which kind of just shuts that down. You have a 2300 on the field. It doesn't have much synergy with the rest of the deck because it's a level 5. So I mean I can see why like Celestia is not being played very much now.
Yeah, so Celestia gets destroyed by Bottomless, and
Yeah.
like Warning, and it just wastes your normal summon and slows you down. So, I don't know. I probably would run like one Celestia and Pure Lightsworn now, just because. Um, and number 3, we're going to talk about a San Antonio regional. First place deck was Hat. That's not too interesting, but what they were running in the main deck with 2 Caius, 1 Majesty's Fiend, and 3 Maxi main deck. That's what I saw. That was pretty interesting to me. Just Caius. Just like random removal of monsters that doesn't destroy is powerful right now, so I understand like the Caius.
Yeah, I mean he's getting a special off the Sanctum, probably a card to pop. So I mean you can see why. I mean, it's interesting. The Majesty's Fiend as well. So.
Hmm. And then the second place at that tournament was Worm Hand Traptrix. It was just like a lot of floaters and just plussing off of like the Zex Yagan, the hands, and W Nebula Meteorite, a lot of draws. So that was pretty cool to see. An interesting deck. I was trying to build something like that before, but I just lost all interest. And I think he was like running 1 Carteros, and it was either 1 or 2. I don't remember, but I think we were gonna go with the 1 when we were making that list. But W Nebula Meteorite still a good card, especially when you're running a deck like Hat, when you can just draw into your back rows. Then we're going to go on to our second to last segment called Tier 2, fun decks that are budget and still competitive. Number 1 on the list, Watt Hands, Watt Thunder, or Watt Hunter. Pretty fun deck, very annoying to deal with if you open well. Messenger of Peace, an extremely strong card, just allows you to keep attacking directly. The hands in the Watt Hand variant, if they get rid of your messengers somehow, you just swing over their big monsters, because most likely they had time to set up a play by then. Ice Hand can get under the messenger with only 1400 attack. So that's pretty cool. It's a lot of control and ability to plus and easy XYZ plays in the Watt Hunter version, which run the Atlantic City Regionals. Number 2, I'm going to talk about Spirit Hand Traptrix. It's basically +1 dot deck. All of your combos net you pluses, and you just want to shut them down with the hands, the Traptrix, and the spirits. Resetsu is basically bounces like one of their monsters that they put resources into. Yaksha shuts down cards that like need you to attack, such as like Deep Prison, which is very common, or Warnings, or Traptrix, Trap Hole Nightmare. Just anything that would stop you from making big plays, it can just put back into their hand once per turn. That's all I really have to say about that. Kage to Kage with King of the Feral Imp just searches that, or an Aratama or a Nikitama. They're both reptile, right?
Kage's a reptile, yeah.
Yeah, so you can
I'm not. Where's the other card?
Aratama and Nikitama. They're not reptile.
No, they're not.
Okay, but you can search another Kage to Kage for another rank 4 play. There's just a lot of versatility with that deck too. And I like the Spirit.
That, you have the blue one, the Stratos one, Kage. You overlay the blue and the Kage for a Death Spiral Imp. Detach the blue one, or no, it's the Stratos and the one you would overlay, and then detach the Stratos one, draw a card for the blue one, and then search Kage to Kage.
Yeah.
It's one of them. I think it's the blue one. Yeah, it's the blue one you detach.
Yeah, the blue Nikitama you detach. Aratama is the Stratus. The spirits are pretty strong in general, but no one really runs them because they can brick pretty easily too. Alright, now the third deck I want to talk about is the Quick Draw Browntown, which I actually have here, and which I've been toying around with. It's pretty fun, and I like it. It's 30 monsters, 1 spell and trap. Faders, Kaises. It's like a Monarch deck, but with quick draw and just mathematicians and stuff thrown in. Jinzo's pretty popular, or pretty strong, not now, right now, not pretty popular, but Jinzo has won me a few games just by being on the field, along with Vanity's Fiend. Not much to say. Gallus has got me some pretty ridiculous burn by milling like a Gores or like a Monarch. Quick draw into quick draw into Drill Warrior, recycle your Maxis, recycle your Faders, recycle your Monarchs, Birdman, plus like any level 4, into Black Rose. Just clears fields, like Birdman in a hand, and then you make your Drill Warrior play. Just a random fun deck that I've been having fun with myself. Not much else to say about it. I haven't really tested it against anything meta. Just been playing kind of the DN ladders. Then the next deck I want to talk about is the Beals Turbo Zombies, it's broken. That's all I'm gonna say. It's broken. Whoever thought it was okay to put 3 Plague Spreader and 3 Malicious together in the same format, probably got fired or like a promotion.
Or they weren't playing, or they weren't or they weren't on staff when
Yeah.
those cards existed together.
It takes it back to the Tell of Dad format, but you're not running like E-Tele. Just 3 Mally, 3 Plague. That's the deck. You just want to get these guys into the graveyard with your foolishes. And double Armageddon Knight, double Greffer, Mizuki.
Lava chain.
Yeah, into the Lava Chain, into the Beals. Beals, really dumb card. Extremely dumb card. The only way...
Yeah, I'm not sure if any of the viewers have seen that article that Sean McCabe posted on Alter Reality Games before I think it was like right after Dragon's a Legend, like before Primal Origins, and he was playing that zombie deck, and he was playing the Kages and Kages, 2 of them, which I liked a lot.
Yeah, that's like a combo. You'd like Armageddon Knight into Kage to Kage, and then have your Beals like on that turn. So you would dump like a Mally. Usually you would dump the Mally just so you don't draw into it like next turn. You dump Mally with Armageddon Knight, and then make your Lava Chain, and then you would dump Plague with Lava Chain. The reason you dump Mally is because if they like Warning or Blackhorn your Mally, it gives you less of a chance to draw into it, and like you can still dump Plague other ways too. And then basically you just make the Beals. You need Dark Tuner and a level 6, or Dark Tuner and any non-tuner. So Plague Mally, level 8 engine. They always have been, always will be. Card's extremely strong. Can't be destroyed by battle or card effects. So announced are like Deep Prison, Breakthrough Skill, like Dark Hole. I don't know, but there's multiple cards you can do, like Compulse, like one-ofs, just to get rid of that. And if you don't have them, then it kind of sucks, because Beals is just going to keep running into you and not give a shit about what you have. And then another card in the deck, which is really strong, is the Vanity's Emptinesses. So you get a Beals out and maybe a Void Ogre out, and you just sit on those cards and the Vanity's Emptiness, and it just shuts down their board and plays. And then another card that McCabe was not running that I wanted to run, which I think is really good, is Safe Zone. It basically stops, or Beals from being deprisoned and anything else that would target and get him off of the board. Like, you can't Honor Shark him if that's on the board. It stops a lot of the outs, which is good. And it basically turns Void Ogre into a Beals as well, which is another strong play. That's all I have to say about that. Always run your mind controls. And the last... Oh, no, there's 2 more decks. Sorry. Fire Kings. This is more of a meta call deck. just against like hands and other random destruction. Garunix, the best card in the deck, extremely powerful. Um, when it's destroyed by a card effect, it gets specialed, and it destroys everything else on the field. So you can't set up against it if its effect is going off. It's easy to summon with 3 Onslaught of the Fire Kings. You can, and the hands, like you could use this on the hands, but it wouldn't get their effect. But just fun to mess around with. Not too strong. Safe zone is to ensure that Garunix is always getting destroyed by a card effect. Because that doesn't have to be just your opponents. And the last deck I want to talk about is the Raccoon deck. Really fun rogue deck. It has the ability to kill you like with these 3 cards: United We Stand, Obedience School, and any level 2 beast. With the double Sandalia, that's about 12,600 damage on the board. So if you don't have the back row, the raccoons are just gonna slam your shit, which is hilarious because you wouldn't expect that coming from this monster or that one. There's a lot of ways to +1 in this deck. Your best play without Obedience School is like summon him, set Tan and some back row and pass, and like flip Tan for Kalantoza, and Kalantoza would pop a card, or you would flip it and summon like Wind Up Kitten, bounce one of their monsters. It's just very versatile, but it's kind of slow and you need back row. It has the same problem as the Watt decks. You need to protect your tiny monsters. But it's super fun. Sandalia really annoying to get around. Because it can't be destroyed by battle or card effects. Destroyed by battle or card effects when you have other beasts. And what the play is you get 2 of these guys out, and his effect, you detach 1 material, and it makes a token which has attack equal to the highest attack monster on the field when it's summoned. So that combined with United We Stand is like OTK material. And then if you have Close Forest on the board, it'll always be like a +1 because it'll have at least 100 attack more than the highest monster on the field. So you just keep running that over and plussing off of that. That's pretty much it. That's the deck. And now the final segment, what I want to talk about, is Lightsworn Sanctuary. Just because I skipped it during the Lightsworn, or during the segment when we were talking about meta decks, because I wanted to talk about it last, because I just don't know. It would have been like a lengthy discussion, so let's read the card. Once per turn, you can send 1 Lightsworn monster from your hand to the graveyard, then target 1 in your graveyard, add 1 to your hand. Each time a card is sent from your deck to the graveyard, place 1 shine counter on this card. If a Lightsworn would be destroyed, remove 2 counters for each of the Lightsworn cards instead. I don't like it at all. It's not that great. You could run Monster Reincarnation instead and get back more monsters instead of just a Lightsworn. I mean, the saving from destruction effect is pretty good. Save your monsters from like Torrential or Bottomless or like Battle. Oh no, is it just by card effect? Yeah, it's just by card effect. So save them from any card effect and remove 2 counters, but I just wouldn't play the card. I'd rather run Monster Reincarnation. Your hand gets pretty tight as it is when you discard cards with Lumina. And you have to discard a Lightsworn monster, so you can't like pitch your Necro or anything else that activates in the grave. It's pretty worthless of a card, in my opinion, but we'll see what happens when it comes out and people do some testing with it. I just don't think it's good. That's all I have to say. It could be another dead card early on, which you don't want in Lightsworn. It just slows you down. Unless you have like a raid-in or like a charge of the Light Brigade or a recharge, it'll almost never be live on your first turn. So that's it. I think that's all we have to talk about tonight. Do you want to add anything before we're done, Dimitri?
No, I mean, we pretty much covered everything.
Is there any viewer questions?
That's a lot of content.
Yeah, that was a decent amount. But before we go, I'm going to ask for more viewer questions. I don't think we're going to have any.
I haven't actually brought the stream up. Is there anybody still in there?
A few. But other than that, I'm going to end the show. Thank you everyone for watching. I'm going to try and get one of these out a week. Next time we'll probably have some special guests. Maybe some pro players to give us insight on what they're playing, what cards are good in the meta that I just wouldn't notice myself. That's pretty much it. Thank you very much for watching, and have a good night. I'll have the YouTube channel up as soon as possible with the VOD of this on here. If you missed any of our segments and want to watch it again, thanks for watching. Record.